Welcome back to the Way to Native Chronicles. Here we explore issues that affect Indigenous communities, outdoor enthusiasts, and those who rely on the land for their way of life. Today we're talking about an important issue, the government's efforts to destroy logging roads after logging operations are complete. At first glance, trapline access might seem like a narrow issue, one that affects only a small number of people, but make no mistake, the increasing restrictions on access to natural areas is a trend that impacts countless Albertans, from hunters and anglers to hikers and backcountry explorers. This movement to restrict access isn't just about conservation. It's often driven by ideological beliefs that view human activity on the land as inherently harmful. The irony? Many of the people pushing these policies rarely venture into the wilderness themselves. Their worldview is not representative of most Albertans, and if we care about our ability to access and enjoy the land, we must push back and make our voices heard. By the way, if you appreciate this content, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, click like, and turn on notifications. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider using the Super Thanks button or contributing via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Every bit of support helps keep these conversations going.
Well, I've driven a good couple kilometers now down the road.
In many parts of Canada, like Alberta, after logging companies have harvested timber, they are required to reclaim the roads, meaning they dig them up, block them off, and do everything in order to let nature overgrow them, as if they were never there. But what if I told you that this practice ignores the needs of the people who have lived on this land for generations? These roads give us access to our traplines, our hunting grounds, and our traditional lands, and without them we have to travel on foot or by canoe miles and miles just to reach the areas where we harvest food and furs. For Indigenous trappers, hunters, and rural residents, these roads aren't just for convenience. They are a vital infrastructure that allow for sustainable use of the land and help preserve traditions that have been passed down for centuries. Wilderness travel is not just challenging, it can also be hazardous, especially for elderly trappers who have spent a lifetime working the land and now wish to pass on their teachings. Many trapping cabins are deep in the wilderness, and without road access, reaching them can be physically demanding and even dangerous. Keeping these roads intact is about more than just convenience. It's about safety and ensuring that knowledge is passed down to the next generation. Some biologists argue that reclaiming roads is necessary to protect wildlife and restore ecosystems. The concern is that these roads fragment habitats and increase human-wildlife interactions. While this is a valid consideration, it's important to recognize that well-maintained roads can actually help responsible land use by concentrating human activity into specific areas, rather than spreading impact over untouched terrain. When a road is reclaimed, it doesn't magically restore the environment overnight. In many cases, it simply makes access harder for those who depend on the land without significantly improving wildlife habitat. And let's not forget the damage that logging itself does. Logging disrupts game populations that trappers rely on, and it destroys areas where Indigenous communities gather traditional medicines. Given this reality, isn't it only fair that after all the destruction caused by logging, something of value is left behind? A road isn't just convenience, it's a small but meaningful way to give back to those who depend on the land. The government's stance on road reclamation is largely based on environmental concerns. The idea is that by identifying these roads, we reduce human impact and allow nature to take over once again. While this sounds reasonable on paper, in practice, it often ignores the needs of the people who actually use the land. Many of these policies are crafted in offices far removed from the realities of rural life, and they fail to account for the role these roads play in sustaining Indigenous traditions, rural communities, and outdoor recreation. If public access is truly a concern, then why not consider a compromise at least? Instead of reclaiming roads, the government could leave them intact and place locked gates at the entrance, allowing access only to those who rely on them, such as trappers, indigenous communities, and other authorized users they choose. This would prevent unnecessary traffic, while still ensuring that those with legitimate needs can continue to access the land. This approach would maintain habitat protection while recognizing the importance of access for those who depend on these roads. It's a simple, effective solution that balances conservation with practicality. Another major issue is the removal of bridges. Logging companies often construct bridges over rivers and streams to access logging areas, but once the operations are done, they are required to dismantle them. This not only cuts off vital access routes, but it also forces people to take longer, more dangerous routes. Leaving those bridges in place would greatly benefit trappers, hunters, and indigenous communities who rely on them for safe passage. From the perspective of logging companies, retaining roads and bridges would also be a cost-effective decision that they would, I'm sure, welcome. Instead of spending millions of dollars reclaiming roads that could still serve a purpose, these funds could be redirected towards useful things like maintaining infrastructure or supporting environmental initiatives that have real impact. It's a win-win for both industry and the communities that depend on these roads. Instead of a one-size-fits-all policy of reclaiming every road, let's take a common-sense approach. Let's recognize that these roads have a value beyond logging. They connect people to their history, their way of life, and their ability to provide for their families. If you agree that logging roads should remain open for those who need them, let's make our voices heard. Share this video, comment below, and join the conversation. Because protecting access to the land isn't just about roads, it's about the people who walk them. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. If you'd like to support the channel, as I said before, you can use the super thanks button or the buy me a coffee link in the description. Your support keeps these important discussions alive. So I'll see you next time from the Way to Native Chronicles. Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.